like to welcome you to BOI MEETS WELLNESS, a podcast that discusses the complexities, celebrations, and challenges of building a wellness ritual as a BOI, a person who is born obviously incredible. You are now listening to BOI MEETS WELLNESS with poet, motivational speaker, and wellness lover, Benton.
BOI, born obviously incredible, especially when you wear it pretty.
BOI MEETS WELLNESS family, how y'all doing out there? I don't know about y'all, but I cannot wait to go back outside. I have a very nice trail near my house that I try to walk on daily. However, it's been raining the last few days, so it's been challenging. Today's episode, I'm really excited to bring to you. I got to sit down and pick the brain of my real estate agent, Deonna Autrey, or you could say future real estate agent. I haven't bought property yet, but we're gonna bring that to the present tense. Deonna was born and raised in South Los Angeles, South Central. We actually played high school basketball together. She is currently hosting first-time home buyer workshops in LA that guide buyers through the home buying process and keep it simple and accessible. She hosted one of her first home buyer workshops at a spot called the Reparations Club in Los Angeles. Once we're out of shelter in place, I suggest you visit the Reparations Club. It's an amazing place full of Black creative art, books, jewelry, clothing, films, anything you can think of. And it's very like historical stuff, vintage stuff, Essence magazines that are like back to like the 1960s type of vibe. My company, Mar Media, hosted an event called the Black Film Festival in January for MLK Day at the Reparations Club. So shouts out to them and the way they support community, getting community things done. So before we jump into this interview with Deonna, I want to jump into our well-being tip of the week, which is to stop listening to social media and to start listening to your intuition. There's so much knowledge and power in our DNA. Before we ask the internet how to tackle a challenge or a very essential, intimate question in our life, we should put 5 on it, which means giving ourselves at least 5 minutes to ground and ask our bodies the questions we are seeking. We often think all the answers are outside of ourselves, but often they are right here within. So what do I mean by grounding ourselves and putting 5 on it? If possible, go to a place with clean water, put water on your face, wash your face off, and sit for 5 minutes and simply breathe. You don't need to shift your breath, but your attempt is to not be distracted. While you're sitting, ask yourself the question you seek. You can say it internally, but I find myself saying it out loud, which makes it more real and easier. Ask yourself the question every time you get distracted, or as much times as possible in that 5 minutes. Listen to the answers from your ancestors, the universe, and the way that your body responds to this question. Listen to yourself. I'll try this. Let me know how it goes. Hit me up and let me know how the practice has been to support your anxiety and the questions you may have or may seek. You can contact me at evolvebenton.com or boimeetswellness.com. Just head over to the contact session and leave a message and let me know how it's been. Also, if you enjoy the podcast, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. This helps us get more listeners, which helps us pay the bills, which helps us bring in more interviews. Remember, reviews are optional but always appreciated. Also, sharing is the best form of support you can give us. So please share this podcast with your friends, family, loved ones, and folks who just need to hear about BOI MEETS WELLNESS. Today's episode is brought to you by Mar Media Productions. Mar Media is a media production company that produces, publishes, and uplifts the stories, art, and journeys of queer and trans people of color and the people who make our lives incredible. Now let's jump into this interview with Deonna Autrey, real estate agent out of Los Angeles, California.
Hello, world. Welcome to BOI MEETS WELLNESS. I am super excited about this conversation today. As we're in the COVID-19 pandemic, I think it's very important for us to be talking about money and to be talking about ownership. So I brought on my dear friend, Deonna Autrey, a real estate agent in Los Angeles, California, to kind of talk to us about ownership and house buying. So Deonna, thank you so much for being here. Can you tell the audience just your pronoun and where you currently reside and a little bit about why you chose real estate?
My name's Deonna. I prefer she, her. Doing real estate in LA. I actually live in Palm Springs, but I do like most of my business in LA. When I started doing real estate, my whole motivation was essentially like I just wanted to learn the real estate game and just teach it to like my friends and family. and kind of empower them and help them. But the more I was involved in real estate, the more that I was around like successful agents and completing transactions and just like around like a lot of investors, I realized that like, like owning real estate isn't as nearly as difficult as like we kind of grew up for it to be. So I kind of like took that passion and just started like teaching as many people like as I can. And it just kind of evolved to like not only me selling and buying real estate for my clients, it turned into like me trying to educate as many people as I can as well.
Dope. So the reason I asked you, where are you now? I work with medical students, and because of COVID-19, a lot of folks have had to like move around, be with family, be closer. So how are you handling the current pandemic, and what is a little bit of your wellness practice on, how to make it through this? Because, it's very anxiety provoking. I know for me, myself, even though I am an introvert, I like being outside. Like I like getting my sun rays in. So what are you doing to take care of yourself, and how are you handling the pandemic?
I've done a lot of like redecorating and reorganizing my apartment for one.
That's fresh. That's fresh.
Man, at first to be honest, I was like eating a lot and I was like drinking more than usual. And then I just had to like kind of like stop myself because I didn't want to go down like that rabbit hole. So I just channeled that energy and like I like redecorated like my living room. I have like a second bedroom and I did some redecorating. I threw a lot of like old stuff out that I didn't need. I started listening to like a lot more music. I just kind of channeled and put that energy into like my environment because I'm like, man, if my mind is already and going crazy, at least my immediate environment can be calm and peaceful, and that will kind of reflect or help reflect my mental state. So I just been doing like a lot of do-it-yourself projects and getting my Martha Stewart on around my apartment, to be honest with you.
That's dope. Yeah. So, on the podcast, we definitely talk about, entrepreneurship, business ownership, but we always want to talk about wellness. So thank you for including that, because I personally feel like, we can't give, from glasses that are half full. And as people who are providing offerings, that's
right.
how look at business. Like we got to show up and be the best level of ourselves. But, during the pandemic, a lot of people put business first instead of themselves. And I can already see where that would head down the burnout hole. So
absolutely.
So I'm happy to hear that you getting your Martha Stewart on.
Oh yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, like what are your goals, as a real estate agent? What do you consider as success?
Success to me, I've always been like a giver and a helper and a nurturer. I gain my fulfillment from helping people. And that's how I feel like I make a difference. In real estate, it's so easy to like get so caught up in like a lot of agents want to be the top agents in their office or have so many transactions. But success to me comes from more of a quality than quantity. I've even like walked away from deals because I didn't feel like it was the best interest of my client. And yeah, I was able to walk away from money, but I get my fulfillment from knowing that like, like I made a difference. And being an agent, it's allowing me to like not only learn the real estate game, but ultimately I want to own multi-unit properties as well, and even some commercial units. But I get my fulfillment from knowing that like I'm taking someone who didn't know anything about home ownership or didn't even think that they could qualify to be a homeowner and holding their hand and walking through the process and ultimately turning them into homeowners and passing that knowledge on to them. That's success to me. It's like how much of an impact I can make.
Dope. I appreciate how you just like so community driven, because I think that, education is so important. I was listening to, I think it was a podcast, YouTube. I don't know. I'm obtaining so much media these days, where it was a young person talking about how he was teaching his kids about real estate through Monopoly, right? And I remember playing Monopoly as a kid, but never really learning the strategy around it, you know, like
Right.
just playing to get money kind of, right? But never
Yeah.
thinking about like literally, you know,
Making a
boardwalk and
connection.
Park Place, like, dang, like, yeah, that's like Beverly Hills, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
the little purple one could be considered South Central, right? Like really looking at it, you know, as landscape. So for you, when you were going into real estate and you were like, okay, I want to be an agent, what made you want to be an agent? Because I know from talking to friends, I got friends that like flip houses. I got friends that do like, you know, mobile home. I got some friends who are more into the construction side and
Mm-hmm.
fixing up houses. So what made you decide you wanted to be an agent?
I wanted to just learn as much as I could about real estate to like help my family and friends. My mom, she owns several properties, but she just kind of jumped into it and kind of like learned along the way. So I wanted to just learn the process and the paperwork so that like I can help the people around me. And I'm more of like a people person anyway. So I just felt like this was the ideal situation for me. Like I was able to like meet different type of people, network with different type of people and help people. And so it just kind of more so like fit my personality in opposed to being a contractor or, you know, it just being an agent really kind of meshed and worked with who I am as a person.
Nice. So I know we were talking offline, and congrats, because you said like, you know, you doing real estate full time, and I was like, dang, you really pushing. Like, I mean, that makes
Yeah.
me hella proud of you. But could you give advice to our audience, you know, not even just for real estate, but folks who are trying to shift into entrepreneurship full time? Like, what's some tips that you would give them?
For one, if this is something that if you have a passion for whatever it is that you're doing and you're thinking about pursuing it full time, I would definitely make sure that like I have a nice little nest egg of savings and you got something put up. I was fortunate enough to where I was able to pursue this full time because of my situation. And then two, bank on yourself. Just jump out there. Like I'm not gonna pretend like I wasn't scared. I was terrified, but it was like no time. It was never gonna be the perfect time. And so I just jumped out there and I banked on myself. And then I looked at it as I was working at FedEx before. So I was looking at it like, you know what? If this shit don't work out, FedEx is gonna be there. You know, like these certain jobs that I had, they're gonna be there if this doesn't work out. But I'm not gonna ever be happy if I don't like take a chance on myself. So like be smart as far as setting yourself up financially because you're gonna need it, but also like bank on yourself. And there's never gonna be a perfect time. Now is the time, you know, maybe not today given what's going on, but like bank on yourself and just jump out there.
Thanks. I'm sure our audience is going to appreciate that because I know I did. I was like, okay, I could do this. I could do this.
Yeah.
The homie doing it. I could do this. So let's jump into some real estate questions.
Okay.
I got a couple from me, a couple from some friends, and then also somebody on Facebook like finally responded. I'm like, always I'm doing interviews. Y'all got questions, and somebody on Facebook got a question. So
okay, shout out to Facebook.
I know, right? So the question is, the first one is like, can you walk us through like the house buying process? Like what does that process look like?
I actually did like a whole workshop that was centered around walking people through the home buying process because a lot of people, because they don't know what the process is, they automatically like kind of like rule themselves out. The first thing you want to do when you're even thinking about buying a home is, for one, is like find a real estate agent. And what's so cool about having a real estate agent when you're a home buyer is that like you don't have to pay the agent. Like the agent gets paid through part of the commission when a home is sold. So essentially you have a professional that's working for you and side by side that you ultimately don't even have to pay. So
oh wow, I didn't even know that.
A lot of people don't.
So it's not, so the payment don't come until the deal is done, pretty much.
Right, and it doesn't come out of your pocket. Like it comes out of the seller. When you buy your house, the person that sold your house to you, they pay the real estate agent. They pay both of the real estate agents. So you as a buyer, it only makes sense if this is your first time to like have a professional walk you through the process, because it's, you know, a real estate agent that's representing you as a buyer is probably the only person that you can hire to do a service for you that you don't have to pay. You got to pay your plumber. You got to pay your housekeeper. You do not have to pay your real estate agent if you're a buyer. Now, if you're a seller, it's different. But as a buyer, nothing comes out of your pocket at all, ever.
Wow, that's knowledge right there.
Yeah. So, and then like, in the beauty of having an agent that's working for you or working with you is that, like, we do a lot of the footwork that you don't have time to do, or that you don't want to do, or you don't know how to do. So that's the most important. And then you want to, like, get a credit check or a credit score, or get your credit report, and then get pre-approved. And that's the most important thing, is like knowing what your credit score is and what's on your credit report, because that is going to play a huge factor when it comes down to the home buying process. What you lack in cash, a lot of times you can kind of make up for in credit. So it starts with, like, knowing what your credit is. It starts with working on your credit. And no matter where you are in the home buying process, you're going to need good credit. Even if you don't want to buy a house, like, you still need good credit. Getting pre-approved, finding out exactly how much you qualify for. You know, you can't be out here looking at multi-million-dollar houses and you only qualify for $200,000 or $100,000. So it's really, really important to get pre-approved and find out exactly where you're at. And how much house you can afford. The next thing is being a little bit familiar with some of the loans. I know it gets kind of, like, tricky and complicated when it comes down to, like, all of the different loans that are out there. But I think that people should still have a general idea of each loan and how much money you need down and what the credit requirements are. And then next we go into, like, the actual home search. Like, once you get pre-approved, once you have an agent and you know your credit score and you got some money in the bank, then you can actually start searching for a house and eventually making an offer.
You mentioned a good credit score, and I'm always like, well, what's that number, right? Like, what's considered good? And then when you get pre-approved, who do you go through? Do I go through my real estate agent? Am I going through a bank? Like how does that work?
You can do it on your own. As far as, like, getting pre-approved, you can go to the bank that you bank with through your checking account, or, like, a lot of like agents like me, like, I have relationships with a lot of different lenders, and it just kind of depends on where you're at financially, and your agent will be able to point you in the right direction with different lenders. So you can essentially get pre-approved on your own by walking into any bank or any credit union, or working with an agent could kind of point you in the right direction of, like, knowing your situation and linking you up with a lender that can help you out the most, that you can get the most out of. As far as credit scores, you'll be surprised that, like, for example, there's a government loan, and it's like the easiest loan to qualify for, and you only need a 585 to qualify for that loan. I usually argue against it. Like, I don't want people to aim that low. You know, when it comes to the credit score, I want them to aim a little higher. But essentially, if you have a 585 credit score, you qualify for a government loan, an FHA loan.
Oh, wow.
I try to get people to aim towards more closer to, like, a 620 and maybe even a 640, because that enables you to put less money down for your down payment. If you only have a 580 credit score, you're going to need 10% down for your down payment. But if you have higher than a 580, let's say you have a 600 or 620, you'll only be required to put down 3.5%. So,
wow, that's a big difference right there.
So that's what I'm saying, that, like, what you lack in cash, you can make up for in credit, you know? And it's like,
you need to put that on a t-shirt, man.
I had it on my PowerPoint. When I did my PowerPoint for my workshop, I had it. I was like, and I told people too, like, choose a struggle. Like, you can't be broke and have bad credit. And essentially, we want to have our paper right and good credit, but it's like, sometimes it's easier for us to build our credit score than it is for us to save up a few thousand racks, you know? So, like, I always emphasize, like, building your credit, no matter where you are in the home buying process. Even if you don't want to buy a house, like, you're still going to need your credit for every facet of life. They look at your credit when you want to lease an apartment or lease a car. So having good credit, definitely, it provides you leverage, especially if you know that, like, you don't really have cash on hand to leverage what your credit will kind of boost that for you.
When you're meeting with a potential client, because I think what people often think about is like, how do I know I can trust my real estate agent, right? But I'm thinking about you as an entrepreneur, and I have a lot of friends who also want to get into real estate. What do you look into as a good client, as a person that you want to work with?
It's important to have trust, and working with someone who is like, okay, like you're hiring me as your agent because for one, you trust me, and for two, I'm a professional. And there's been times like I've walked away from a deal just because it was just too much friction. It got to the point that like, okay, like, but who's the agent here? You know, like, and it's no disrespect, but it has to be like a mutual respect. You have to trust that your agent is here for your best interest. And if you don't have that trust to kind of like let go and let this agent do their job, then it's going to cause a lot of friction and tension through the process. And nobody wants to work in that environment. So I always tell people, especially buyers, since you're not paying an agent per se, is to, you know, to shop around, to get a feel. And you know, and we kind of know, we get vibes from people who we feel comfortable with when it comes to, you know, doing business with. So I say, like, start, you know, don't just sign the first agent that you talk to, you know, kind of like, you know, hold these interviews and have these conversations with like several agents and see like who resonates with you, who you mesh well with. Because you have to have like a level of trust on both sides. You know, I need that my client, I want them to feel comfortable enough with me that they're not micromanaging me. And I need to be able to feel comfortable with this person that like, I don't need you in the back of my ear every 5 minutes. So I think that it needs to be like a mutual respect and a mutual understanding between both parties.
Okay, so I got my money right. I got my 3%. I got pretty good credit. You know what I'm saying? I think my credit
3.5%. You got 3.5%.
I got my 3.5%. I got good credit. I think my credit right now is like 690. So I'm doing pretty
That's phenomenal.
Good.
Yes.
So I'm with you, you know, and I'm about to go look for some houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference between a seller's and buyer's market? That's the thing that I've been hearing. Like, is it time to buy? Is it not time to buy? Like, how do you know that once you have all your stuff in line?
That is a great question. So a few months ago, before this whole COVID-19 happened, it was more of a seller's market because sellers were essentially getting whatever it is that they asked for when it came to the value of their home. We saw a lot, like, you know, we're talking about like gentrification. We saw a lot of like gentrification going on because a lot of people were just, they were out, they were just selling their homes, just giving up their homes. So we saw it essentially, if you were a seller, you were getting whatever it is that you wanted as far as the value for your home. Right now, and probably in the next like 3 to 6 months, we're going to see a shift. And that shift it's going to turn from a seller's market and it's going to turn into a buyer's market. And so if you're in a position and you got your paper right and you feel confident that like your financial situation is good and you feel confident that like, you know, your job is safe, now is the time to jump in. Or probably maybe not today, but definitely in the next like month or couple months coming up, because you're going to see prices of homes drop significantly. And I've already seen it now.
Nice. So what kind of shifts are you seeing already? Because it's only been we've been in this maybe a month, maybe like 3-4 weeks?
Yeah. It's been like a month. I'll give you an example. Like I'm working with a client like right now. Like we literally just put an offer in for a house last night. And so we've actually been searching for a house for her for probably about a month, like right before this pandemic hit. And so one of the houses that we had went to go look at a few days ago, she like sent me a text and she's like, yeah, they like reduced the price of the house by like $15,000. And we literally just went to go look at the house probably like a week ago.
Wow.
What's going on with this pandemic is a lot of people are kind of scared, you know, and rightfully so. It's a lot of uncertainty right now. Some people lost their jobs. Some people, you know, I'm just worried about rent. There's a lot of people worried about like, damn, how am I going to pay my mortgage? So like, you're going to see people that are willing to sell who otherwise probably wouldn't have wanted to sell. And so you're going to see a lot more of people like panic selling. You're going to see people giving up their homes. You're going to see a lot of discounted homes. So my best advice for people that if you think that you're in a position or you got people in your network and you could collaborate with some people in your network or your circle and get your stuff together, because in the next like couple months we're going to see like a shift in the market, and it's going to be the time to jump in and buy these homes up, because it's going to be the perfect opportunity.
So what are your thoughts on buying out of state? Buying out of state property, and what tips would you give folks who are thinking about doing that? Because I often hear my friends saying, "I'm just gonna buy me a house in Atlanta and rent it out." Like, is it that easy, or is it some cons that come with that, some pros? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I know a couple people that are currently doing that. I think that it's a great idea, because I think that like California is like the most expensive state to live in, next to New York. So any other state that you go to, you're going to get way more bang for your buck. You're going to get way more value for your dollar. I think that like if you're in a position to do it and you have the flexibility as far as time to be able to go back and forth occasionally and check on your property, I highly recommend like linking up with like a property manager that like you trust and that you feel comfortable with to like handle your day-to-day business activities. But if your job or like your situation allows you to like kind of get up and go sometimes, I think that it's a genius idea. And I've actually I was working with someone and they wanted to like buy an investment property in LA, but she just figured that it was probably a better situation for her to go to Atlanta because of the value that you get out there. And her occupation allows her, it gives her that flexibility to where she can kind of go back and forth. So I'm all for it. If you got the resources and you have the flexibility as far as time, I say go and do it.
Nice. So in the beginning of the interview, you mentioned like one of your goals is to like own commercial property, own, several properties, monopoly it up. Where are you at in that goal? Like, do you own anything? And where does your attraction to ownership come from?
My attraction to ownership definitely comes from my mom. I used to think she was crazy because she was just buying properties, and some properties like we lived in the town and some we didn't, and that's actually what like drove me to pursue real estate, was so like I could learn the paperwork aspect of it. I don't own any properties currently, but I have a lot of hands-on dealing with like the properties that like my mom owns and gaining experience there. But me closing these real estate deals, this is what's funding it. I don't really care about being a top agent. Me being a real estate agent is providing me with the income and the money and the capital to where it's funding these dreams that I have. And now like seeing how the market is shifting and it's changing, it's like I'm trying to put my eggs in the basket now so that when the market does shift, I'll be ready and a little bit more prepared to even pursue that.
Okay, cool. So here's our question from Facebook, and I believe it was the homie Bo who posted this question. So shouts out to Bo.
Okay.
How can non-real estate people learn more about real estate? Any classes that you would suggest, videos or books that you've read?
A little bit of everything. I actually, like, before I even jumped and got my real estate license and started going to real estate school, I would watch a lot of Jay Morrison videos on YouTube and on Instagram. And it's another gentleman, he's actually signed to my same brokerage company. His name is Tom Ferry. He's like a real estate guru. And I would just like pick up information from everywhere. I would read as many books, but YouTube and like Instagram, it was really like a good starter point for me. And it even kind of helped inspire me to get my real estate license, just because it's like I realized like how accessible it is and how attainable it is. So I would start with, we spend a lot of time on Instagram and YouTube anyway, like start following some of these real estate gurus, because it's a lot of valuable information there. And you'll actually be surprised. So books, a lot of mine came from YouTube and Instagram, to be completely honest with you though.
That's what's up. Yeah, I've seen some of Jay Morrison's stuff. He holds, hella properties, hella like apartments and stuff as well, right?
Yeah, he does. And he does a really good job of like breaking it down into layman's terms and breaking it down like step by step. I know he has like classes and stuff online that you can pay for. I never went that far, but just his videos that he posts on a regular, like it's very, very informative. And I think it's a really good start.
Okay, cool. So before we jump into our next segment is a little bit more, it's more fun. It's more like, get some laughter out of you, get to know you a little bit better. Is there anything else you like our audience to know about real estate or about you?
I want people to know that it's attainable and that this isn't just something that's reserved for the rich and the famous. You too can be a homeowner, and it takes discipline. I'm not saying it's easy. It takes discipline, it takes sacrifice, and it takes commitment, but it's possible. And I've seen it. I see it all the time with people who you probably would never think could own a home. But I'm here to tell you that, like, even if you're thinking about it, to pursue it and go after it. Because no matter what happens with the market, real estate, the thing about real estate is either going to be a buyer's market or a seller's market. So there's never a bad time for real estate, ever.
Thank you for that. That pumped me up. I'm gonna have to listen to that over and over again while I'm going through the process. But you already know I'm gonna call you when it's time to pop. I'm gonna be calling you.
Man, anytime.
You gotta have people in your community that you trust, and I trust you, and I'm very proud of the work that you're doing. And I hope that the folks that are listening to this take advantage not only of this knowledge, but get to know you, outside of this Boy Meets Wellness space, so that they can step into ownership as well.
Absolutely.
All right. So our next segment is Boy Talk and Hop, right? So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions and you just kind of like fill in the blank. So it'll be like your favorite food is. And if it was me, probably right now, I'd be talking about some steak because the boo cooked that last night and it was bomb. It's still, when something is still in your teeth, probably from the day before, it still takes that seasoning. That's where I'm at with it.
Y'all quarantine is lit then. Y'all over there eating steak and it's like day 38 and y'all still eating steak. Okay.
And we've been trying to make sure we have the things we like, you know what I mean? Because then, it'll make us not go out and we really don't need to be going out. So we try to make sure everything is here.
I feel
All
it.
Right. So Boy Talk and Hop.
Okay.
So the first question is, love is
everything.
Money is
a tool.
Ownership is
powerful.
If you could speak to anyone dead or alive, who would it be and what would you do?
You asked that and I look straight ahead and I have a big ass like poster of Malcolm X in my living room and it would be Malcolm X. And I would sit down and probably pick his brain and get some word of advice when it comes to discipline from him.
Shouts out to brother Malcolm, man.
Yes,
that's a leader in our community. I mean, he could probably tell you about some discipline and about some ownership, right? He really could break it down.
Oh, absolutely. But just the fact that like he taught himself, he self-educated himself, taught himself how to read, and that takes a different level of mental strength and discipline. So yeah, I love me some Malcolm.
My favorite book is
Behold a Pale Horse.
Okay, who's that by?
William Garrison.
Nice. I'm gonna have to check that out. What's the book about?
It's a lot of like conspiracy theory. Given what's going on right now, I think that like a lot of people should probably tune into it. Just world domination when it comes to certain things that the powers to be that are doing behind the scenes, foretelling of things that's like going on now. And this book was like written, I want to say like in like the 80s, I believe.
Oh, wow. Yeah, wow, so on some psychic stuff, low key.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check that one out. Wellness is
balance and peace.
My favorite food is
tacos.
All day.
Man, I can eat tacos every single day. Seriously.
And I want everybody to know that's listening to this. In SoCal, we got particular tacos, y'all. So when we come to your house, in Atlanta or Houston, you try to give us tacos, we gonna correct y'all. We got particular type of taco that we like, and black folks got their own version as well. So
but we judging your tacos though. We are. We love you, but we judging your tacos.
And then last but never least, Deonna is
a lover, an entrepreneur, a nurturer, a bomb ass roller skater. Shouts out to real estate and roller skate. That's me.
Nice. I've been seeing you, doing the circles and splits in the skates. When did you start doing that?
Man, and what's funny is that like I was skating way back when like we were in school, but after like Road on Wheels had like shut down and Cerritos and all the skate rinks had shut down, like of course I couldn't really skate anymore. But about 2 years ago, I was just like, man, like I want to go skating, and I found this skate rink about an hour away from where I live, and I just started going. And I just started going every single Wednesday to like this adult night. And then I just kind of got immersed into the whole skate culture and just started going to all the skating rinks in like Southern California. And like, I've met some beautiful, wonderful people through the love of skating. Shouts out to my skate fam, man, because we are all going crazy right now. If y'all know anybody that roller skates, check on them because they are not okay. But it just started about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. And I've been in love ever since.
That's hella dope. Yeah, I remember we used to skate when we used to have those fundraisers for basketball.
Yeah.
But I never seen you do all these twirling and all these tricks you doing now. So you didn't advance the whole lot the last few years, man.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's what's up, especially as to see someone doing that as an adult, because I think that, a thing about health and wellness and just well-being in general is like, how do we get back to our childhood selves and bring that joy in? So when I see you, it brings me so much joy, and I'm happy that it brings joy to your life too. That's how.
Oh yeah. That's my. It's a lot cheaper than therapy, I tell you that. And so, but that's a lot of people, they got their thing, like that's my gym or that's my bar, that's my outlet. And a lot of skaters, I think that they would even agree, like that's our break from reality.
Well, thank you so much for this interview. I really appreciate it. Before we log off, though, I just want you to let the audience know, how can they get in contact with you, website, Instagram, however you would like them to approach communicating with you, to ask questions, to potentially buy a home, to talk about real estate.
You can reach me. Probably the easiest way to reach me is through my email. It's actually realestateandrollerskates@gmail.com. That's realestateandrollerskates@gmail.com. And my Instagram is @isthatdeonna, Deonna. That's my first name. I'm always, I love when people slide my DMs asking me about real estate questions. I do free consultations for potential home buyers. I have my own brochures that I created to get this information out. But definitely real estate and roller skates @gmail, and my Instagram is that Deonna.
Thank you again. I really appreciate this. I'm excited for folks to hear this, and I'm excited to step into ownership soon. I mean, I always have said, if I'm gonna buy in my city. One of my goals, everyone knows, is to buy the apartment I grew up in.
Yeah.
But I know it's going to be steps before we get there. So, I hope to be able to be on that venture and taking those steps with you.
Yeah, we're going to get you there. And thank you for having me. I really, really appreciate you reaching out. It's a huge honor. And whenever you're ready, I got you. We're going to get through it together. What's going on, y'all? My name is Deonna Autrey, and I'm born, obviously, incredible.
Thanks for listening to Boy Meets Wellness. Stay connected on and off the show by following us online at Boy Meets Wellness. That's boy with an I. Until next time, go be